We continue here on Westmoreland on the Gridiron. Sean Meyers joined by the first-year head coach for Greensburg Central Catholic, Marko Thomas. Marko, thank you for taking the time. It's been an impressive start to your tenure at Greensburg Central Catholic. Your team coming off of a couple of really nice victories, most recently lopsided against Riverview. What have you seen over the last couple of weeks that has allowed your team to really put up some prolific numbers?
I just think we're starting to gel a little. The early season games, we're still learning. We're still trying to find pieces and put things together offensively and defensively. And really over the last 2 weeks, I think things are starting to fall, together the way that we had planned. We're starting to move the ball a little more on offense. The defense has been, lights out the last 2 weeks. We haven't got a point. So, it's definitely starting to come together.
And you talk about the defense, so you have back-to-back shutouts. You've also had a couple of wins in which you held your opponent to just 7 points. So in the 4 victories that you've had that were contested on the field, not counting the forfeit, you've allowed just 14 points. It seems like your team success goes with the defense as well. What have you seen that's really stood out defensively?
Just aggressiveness. Really the kids have also bought in. A lot of people were skeptical on the 3-stack when we came in with it. They've bought in and they've done exactly what we wanted. Practices are intense. They are flying around, making calls. Communication's huge. And they just have bought into it. And we got a couple kids that really love playing defense, and it shows. And I think once we make one play, it kind of feeds off of everything, and everybody feeds off of that, and just excites them. And there's a lot of pride and defense here right now, and hopefully it continues.
I know certainly that you experienced a lot of the unpredictability of the COVID season last year when you were at Connellsville area, and some of that's carried over to Greensburg Central Catholic because you had a late change to your Week 0 matchup. You went against a 5A school. You also won a game by forfeit against Amani Christian. So when you looked at what the schedule was supposed to be as opposed to what you've played, not exactly the same. How has your team been able to adjust?
You just got to go with it, with the late cancellation the first week and trying to find a game, a lot of people thought we were crazy to go against Upper St. Clair, but I wasn't going to hold them out. I wasn't going to say we're not going to play, and really we learned from that. Maybe a couple of us thought we were a little better than what we were, and the feet taste rubbed us the wrong way, and it showed kids, this is what it takes to be an elite type of team, and so you learn from that. And honestly, our defense I thought played really well that game. It's just we kept on putting ourselves in a hole with the short field. Same with the Amani cancellation. It was late in the week. Unfortunately, we tried to find a game, but we couldn't find one. It was just Friday morning we get the call, and it's tough to schedule a game after that. So you just go with it. It's happened to so many teams. You just can't let it get you down. You just got to keep on building. We got a week off it to get healthy, and you just got to take it that way.
And you mentioned you had that week off to get healthy, but you also had a week away from football, and then when you came back, it was at Bishop Canevin for a Saturday night game, and you end up coming up short 20-14. That was probably a pretty discouraging loss, but what did your team take away from that setback?
We shot ourselves in the foot a lot there, I believe. We turned the ball over 5 times. We committed just a ton of penalties that, shouldn't have happened. Especially, the offsides on defense penalties. That's something, maybe once a game, but not 6 or 7, whatever it was that game. We try to learn as much as we can from that. We played the team tough. It's not like they destroyed us. We kind of destroyed ourselves in our eyes. And we just had to harp on discipline and, just the little things that we can control. We can't control refs. We can't control what the other team does. We got to control what we can do and just take responsibility for, our jobs and, just to learn and get better from that.
Talking to Marko Thomas, the first-year head coach for the Greensburg Central Catholic Centurions. We mentioned pretty lopsided the last 2 weeks. You've outscored your opponents 101-0, and it was 66-0 against Riverview last week, a team that actually had snapped a long losing skid just before that. As a coach, how do you balance wanting to get different players reps and allowing them to go through important opportunities on the field without really trying to rub the opponent the wrong way?
I think we've been doing a pretty good job of rotating kids in throughout the year, just to try to get them experience. We know we're going to be losing kids once we make it to the playoffs, and we just got to make sure that we have the backups ready in that time. So, I mean, it is what it is. I've been on the other side of those scores a lot when I was at Connellsville, and it's, at some time your team has to step up and, make the stops, and, our team, you can't tell your kids to not try to score and stuff like that. It's just, you want them to get better. Those kids, when they get out on the field, they want to compete too. It's Friday night. They're excited. They want to put their name in the paper as well. So, unfortunately, we just kept on getting it last week, just a short side of the field. And, it happens when you get the short side of the field a lot, you get a lot of opportunity to score. And when you give the team another, we were in the position against Canevin the week before, or 2 weeks before, we kept on giving them the short side to work with. And it's tough to defend that all day. So we rotated in as many kids as we can. I think we got everybody in and trying to give them a little experience, so when we get to the playoffs, it's not a shock.
Talking about rotating, well, you've done that, at least in certain games, at the quarterback position. Tyree Turner, the sophomore, seems like he's sort of taken the lion's share recently, but we saw a lot of Nate DeLugos, the junior, earlier in the season as well. What have you seen from those two in their competition?
They're competitors. They really are. They're both students of the game. They're both studying. They're both trying to make themselves better. They both are, respected by their teammates. When they walk into the huddle, the kids listen. They know what's going on. They know they can tell you everybody in the huddle what they're doing. So they're definitely leaders at that position. And with what we're running, we're asking the quarterbacks to, make a lot of reads, and they got to make them quickly. So they got to be able to react and, try not to make the wrong reads or turn the ball over. It's a tougher offense, but both of them have been stepping it up. They've both gotten a lot of playing time, and right now it's just Tyree's taking over a little more here recently. I think he's just got a really good grasp on what we're trying to do, and he's been moving the ball the last couple weeks.
This question might be a little bit different for you since you're in your first year with the program as opposed to a long-tenured coach. And maybe you didn't have necessarily expectations of everyone coming in, but what players have surprised you in a positive way so far this year?
I'll tell you one has been Elijah Morgan Washington. He's been playing our left tackle. He's been playing a little bit of D end, but he's just a very solid player. Very rarely have we had to correct him in films on Saturday morning. He seems to really get what we're doing. He's not taking himself out of games. He doesn't get lazy. He's constantly fighting and moving, and really doesn't say much either in practice, so you wouldn't even know he's there half the time. But when he gets in the game, also on defense, he's been making plays. So he's been kind of one of our silent leaders in that aspect. Same with, I really respect the play of Xander Colcom when he gets on the field. Same thing, he's always in the right position. He's always doing his job. He knows what's going on. He's able to make the call, especially on defense. And we actually had him change his position just to try to help us out on the offensive line. And every time he's gotten in there, he's been doing a great job. We don't lose anything when he comes into the game.
Talking to Marko Thomas here on the Westmoreland Sports Network. Well, there's no doubt that no matter what the Clairton Bears do at the beginning of the season, they always seem to round into form as we get near the end of the season and certainly to the playoffs. And it seems like that's the case again for this Clairton team. When you look at them, what stands out?
Speed and aggression. Every time this is my first time playing against Clarion or coaching against Clarion, but I've seen Clarion. I watch every championship game, so you see what they're about, and they're fast, but offensively and defensively, they're very aggressive. The one thing I really like is how their line just fires out, and they don't stop until the whistle blows. Same with their linebackers. Linebackers are always flying. I mean, there's never a time where you see a Clairton Bear linebacker take a play off. They're always moving around. You'll see that in the game, watching film. So it's just very impressive. You know the history. They're going to be good. Not many teams can go into their place and beat them.
Well, that's what you mentioned, going into their place, and I would think that that's one of the more hostile environments. Everyone thinks of the Pit and the Wolverina as well with Aliquippa and Woodland Hills, but it seems like the Bears have one of the best home field advantages. How do you make sure that your team's ready for something like that?
We put them in a position earlier in the season, like I said, at Upper St. Clair, and I think that kind of opened their eyes. You walk into that stadium compared to a typical single-A stadium, and it's like you're on a college campus. Their student section probably had more kids in it than the entire school that we had. drive, So we put them in that position. Their eyes were a little wide before the game, but you got to just block it out. When it comes down to it, you're playing the game. The noises all kind of shut out when you're playing. You just got to know what you're doing, execute, and do your job, and everything else will take care of itself.
Lastly, what are the biggest keys for victory against the Bears?
Discipline. We got to stay disciplined. We have to, jumping offside, early penalties on offense, putting ourselves in a hole. That's what's going to kill us in a game like this. We've had so many times where we've had nice plays, but we're caught back on a holding or, something, illegal motion or something like that puts a damper on things that you do well. Defensively, the quarterback Capone, he could be a nightmare. The kid's got a cannon of an arm, but the thing is, if you break or let him break contain, it's going to be a long day. He'll run all over you. So we got to be disciplined on defense, disciplined on offense, and just do our jobs.
Marko, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it. Good luck against Clairton this week.
All right, thanks for having me.
That's Marko Thomas, the first-year head coach for Greensburg Central Catholic.